Show your support for the Untold. Show your support for the Untold Radio Network family of shows and join in on the conversation by using super stickers and super chats on YouTube. Got a question you want answered? Ask it live via a super chat and get real-time responses from our shows, knowledgeable hosts, and guests. Help keep the Untold Radio Network shows running strong. We need your support. Send your super chats and stickers now.
Well, hi there, ladies and gentlemen. It's episode 54 of Down South Anomalies for the Untold Radio Network. My name's Jay Katz.
And I'm Aspasia.
Okay, and look, this episode is called Yowie News, Peruvian Blues, and
UAP clues.
And it's a topical episode. It's a bit like our news
Well, it's our-
and lost media.
Yeah,
So we've got
yeah.
little
It's a
bits of lost
roundup.
media. Move closer in you. I'm losing you there a bit to the side.
I'm on the
Is
edge.
that right?
I'm always
Am I
on the
moving-
edge.
Meant to move this way.
Oh, whatever.
Is that it?
Okay. It's
Okay. Now, we have to remember every week, ladies and gentlemen, that Aspasia and I are in Sydney, Australia, and we are broadcasting on sacred land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and we want to acknowledge and pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging.
Yes, we do.
And the sheer tragedy of what we're living through in Australia, and the sheer
going
tragedy
forward
of
now.
what people are living through in the world.
Well,
Our heart is with everyone.
it
I
is.
hope Malcolm's well out there. I hope lots of our listeners, Uncle Bones,
Uncle Bones, yes.
incredible amount of people that we absolutely adore that have supported us on this station. Now, we're going to do this in 3 sections.
Yes, we
We've
are.
got some incredible news that Yowie Hunters Australia
Yep.
have brought forward.
Yes.
And it's all to do with, well, you know, let's just dive straight into it. Can you go up here?
yes.
And the Adani Rail Project, which
Mhm.
is an open cut coal mine,
Mhm.
and Adani don't have the greatest reputation, do they?
Mm,
They
no,
have
don't.
created an enormous rail project
Look, any
to cart coal
Yeah.
from this mine that is actually affecting desperately the Great Barrier Reef.
yeah.
big
Well,
time.
anything that you go into an environment and you alter it so drastically by cutting into it or building these huge structures over the top, it's just going to affect the ecosystem around it. How can it not?
And
you know what I
shouldn't
mean?
we be thinking a little outside the square when it comes to coal?
Yeah, but if it's yeah, we should, but we're not. You know,
Okay.
that's the reality. We're
So
not.
recently, October 31st, Dean Harrison, that we have been dealing with
October
from-
31st, which is
Yeah,
Halloween.
yeah.
Yep.
There was a piece of footage that had been around for a number of years
It had,
by
yes.
some workers in
Mhm.
between 2 obscure coal mining towns.
Yes.
That was released, was part of this rail project
Mhm.
that is really quite extreme. Let's go to the next image.
Yes.
And this footage is by workers that
Yes.
uncovered this wild boar
That's a ball. It's a ball
torn in half.
in half. Yeah.
And
wow.
right next to it were the most incredible footprints.
Huge footprints. Yeah.
So, I mean, you know how out of control wild boars can be.
Oh.
Your father was a hunter,
he was. Yeah.
and you've dealt with them. He dealt with them. He's been
Yes.
attacked by them.
He has, and they've been chased by them. They're very, very dangerous. We actually even ended up as you do. They found a piglet,
Oh, that's
a
right.
wild boar
You
piglet.
called
Remember?
it souvlaki.
We called it souvlaki. It came home with my dad, and it became a family pet. And in the city, in suburban Sydney,
Yeah, I think the council got upset by
Well,
about the
it-
sound
it
from
was-
this. It was
it
like
was-
Razorback. the
it
film.
was Razorback. We ended up having Razorback, but the funniest thing was, my mum taking the family German Shepherd and the wild boar, with the tusks starting to come in when it was about 6 months old, for walks down the street. That was
incredible. Did
Anyway.
you have them both on leads? Because
Yes.
I know you.
Yeah. No, they
your
were
German
both.
Shepherd was an odd German Shepherd. It was a
I-
vegetarian.
It was
epileptic.
an epileptic German Shepherd.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can't have normal animals, of course not.
No.
But the problem with souvlaki was it had been so domesticated,
Right.
And it had become a family pet that when the council finally did find out about it, when people started having sightings of razorback in the city, the council came in and said, you can't keep this here. You've got to get rid of it. It's classed as vermin. And anyway, of course, we couldn't release it into the wild because it had been, my mum used to cook for it, you know.
Oh my God.
It was hand-reared.
Domesticated.
It was a domestic, and it would have, anyway, we had to have somebody, you know, sort it out. And of course, we handed the meat out to friends and family.
Well, you fed it to me on
Well, we
Easter, and
couldn't
I
eat
didn't
it.
know. I
No,
was
you didn't.
emotionally in love with that wild boar.
Because there's four of us girls, and our husbands all got to eat the wild boar, and we just stood by and went, okay, well, we cooked it. You can eat it.
Now, what
Anyway.
I'd say now is if you're watching on YouTube, and you should be watching on YouTube because we're heavily visual in our podcast.
We are.
And what is happening with that provider at times? They're doing funny things with our algorithm.
Some of
there.
those
The numbers
up and down
go
weird.
up and then they come down.
But weird and big chunks, you know,
Yeah,
not like
very
about
strange. Keep an eye on
40,
that, all our
50.
listeners and
Yeah.
viewers.
Yeah.
But we'll not go into any more depth on that. Dean, who we dealt through
With-
our the beautiful Sarah
Bignall.
who we'll have back on really soon.
Yep.
I think he's trying to keep the whole notion of the Yowie, Australia's Bigfoot, alive in the press.
Absolutely.
But this is an extraordinary case with multiple eyewitnesses.
Mhm.
Let's have a look at first. There's some of the footage is blurred, but I'm just saying if you've got children around, it's probably best to take them out of the room at this stage. Let's have a look at this initial footage from this area.
A Yowie expert has declared that a resurfaced video of a wild boar that appears to have been sliced clean in half by a Yowie is genuine. The expert, Dean Harrison, who has spent 25 years researching Yowies, believes that the footage is authentic based on the size of the footprints, the reaction of the workers who filmed the scene, and the fact that he has received reports of animals ripped in half in the past. He also claims that Indigenous workers on the Adani Rail project in Queensland, where the video was filmed, had heard strange noises and felt as if they were being watched.
Yes, very interesting. Now let's go to a clearer image.
Rip clean in half, and then this next one.
But there's not just that. There is a series of footprints, and the footprints do what our cat Anton does.
Yes.
Those footprints do the Beyonce
One in front
walk.
of the other.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one
they're
in
not
front of
side
the
by
other.
side.
So
Yeah,
what we're going to do, where I've found the only clear footage, and we have to thank Paranormal Chick, not my words, hers, for this little insert, which is really clean footage. We'll get her commentary initially, and then we'll actually get to that clean footage. And as I said, this is totally unblurred, uncensored. So take the children out of the room. Let's have a look at this.
The Paranormal Chick here. This video is for educational purposes only. It's proof and evidence in the quest to find Bigfoot. A team of construction workers arrived to the remote job site out in Queensland, Australia, and what they find is like something out of a horror movie. They arrive to a scene of some sort of animal attack. They find a massive boar torn in half, and then they find the footprints. These huge footprints look like a Bigfoot, or Yowie as Australians call them. And then the credible part about this video is the footprints and the way that they are spaced. There's one right in front of the other. And that's been typical lore and knowledge surrounding Bigfoots on how their stride is. It's very one in front of the other and not side to side. Take a look at this video and tell me what you think.
You got a cigarette box?
No, just put my boot next to it. Fucking rip clean in half, and then this next one.
Got a good shot of it? That might be a better one there.
And it's going up the hill.
Hey, what about just digging a hole and burying it?
It's only 2 creeks.
Yeah, that's right. What about up there? What's up there?
Oh, that's not it.
Well, you can see where something's dragged us down there.
I didn't look to see if the other car was still up there.
Your boss will be eyes open up.
So please excuse the pragmatism of the workers there and the slight amount of French I should have given a warning.
Well-
but that is raw footage. And what can actually tear a wild boar in half?
Where was all the blood too? It's just, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a weird one.
It's very interesting.
The other thing too is like, I think I did hear in one other that they actually disturbed it. That's why
in the midst of
in
it.
the midst of doing it, and it ran off, whatever it was ran off and left the carcass there split in
Okay.
two. So yeah.
Do you know of any other predator that could achieve that incredible feat of strength?
Well, in Australia, I mean, a wild boar is pretty much the apex predator
It
out in the
is.
bush, isn't
Yep.
it? I mean,
and it's predominant. It's everywhere.
they are vermin. They're classed as vermin.
They will attack you head on. They will knock you to
They're
the
like
ground and they will
they're a
eat you to
Sherman-
bits.
They are a Sherman tank.
But I tell you
seriously.
what, you can domesticate them, and my heart
Well-
goes out to beautiful Souvlaki because that animal was fantastic. But by the time it was 6 months old,
Yeah,
it was like having a relationship with a Sherman tank. It really was. When it'd brush up against you
yeah,
to
yeah.
rub its scent
I
on
know,
you,
I
it'd
know.
just about tear your
I
leg
know,
off.
it was out of control, but anyway.
All right.
Anyway,
So we searched through some archival material. It's gonna get very Australian, and
well,
we'll show
yeah.
that distinction of who we are
Mm.
and in the population. We're gonna listen to a very frightening piece of audio.
Yeah.
This comes from the Pillager Scrub. Now, I actually went out there with a group of researchers
Mhm.
in the late 90s and did some research. We actually fronted up to a shearing shed.
You did.
And here was the most amazing thing. They thought that we're actually
Greenies.
greenies,
Yeah.
climate changes. They
Yeah.
were ready to sort of whack us with the shearing gear.
You were
And the-
called greenies back then. You
and
weren't
the moment
climate
we got
change.
out and spoke to them about the fact that we wanted to actually record some of their narratives, if
Mhm.
anyone had experienced Bigfoot,
Yes.
they were so totally open to it.
Yeah, they
They'd
were.
all had experiences. Now, there is an irony about the Pillager Scrub. Now, where is the Pillager Scrub?
Pillager Scrub is up sort of north near
in New South Wales,
in New
rural,
South Wales.
on the
rural-
tablelands
yeah,
there,
on
isn't
the
it?
New England tableland there.
Okay,
It's beautiful.
so it's up
It's a national park. The Pillager
north
is
from
a
where we are
national-
now.
Yep.
Now, I believe that due to colonisation, that was never a scrubland
No, it wasn't.
until we came here.
Yeah.
And now it is so dense a
Dense.
scrubland that
Yeah.
there's an absolute danger in going out there late at night, not even just dealing what might be alive in the bush, just getting so lost
Yes.
in that environment.
Absolutely.
You know, it's
Mhm.
so thick
Yeah.
and out of control. The indigenous population used to burn it back.
Burn it back, yeah, to keep it under
They
control.
did cool burning,
Yep.
which is the most effective way.
Yeah.
That's another documentary people should have a look for
Mm.
by the incredible Sarah that is out there now that
Oh,
says,
yeah.
you know, that should
Cool
be
that's
embraced
the
by
way-
all the fire services.
Anyway,
Anyway, I'm digressing
You
from
are.
that.
Yeah.
The story, let me set the story up here.
set it up. Yep.
Now, because we're only going to get a certain slice of this, and you
Mhm.
can search around the net. These are all trigger points. We're not saying anything absolute here. Search around the net for more dependable, reliable
Mhm.
information to back these stories up.
Well, just to back it up, yeah.
But evidently, the radio crew here were doing like a little freaky night special. It could have been Halloween.
Mhm.
And this was years ago where they actually had put a couple of reporters, or at least one reporter, into the scrubland.
Mhm.
Now, this was made aware to a client of a sanitarium who'd had an incident that had driven him into the
Into the
sanitarium through that scrubland.
Yeah.
And he's got it completely wrong in his narration here, but he's been actually brought to the phone, this ring-in, by one of the nurses in this
Yeah,
sanatorium.
she said they're talking about you.
Yeah,
on-
but they weren't
they're talk-
talking about you. They were talking about the scrubland and what had
Your-
gone
the
on.
incident, yeah.
And he was completely freaked that anyone would try this on.
So he starts, he
He wanted
starts
to
off,
warn them.
yeah. So he starts off fine, but as he starts telling his story, you can hear him. He starts to really stutter
Well, what,
and get really.
What you do here,
yeah.
especially from our background, is you actually hear very predominant
Yeah.
post-traumatic, not just stress, but disorder
Yeah.
of the extreme kind.
Because as he's recounting it, he's reliving it, of
Now,
course.
people
and
can
he
make a mockery of this, but
mm.
I want you to go into it with a very open mind, listen to this,
Yeah.
and you will actually pick up on the authenticity
the distress that this
and
poor
the distress
person's
of
going
what
through.
this person's going through.
Okay.
All right, this is Bongo's story. You're on Down South Anomalies, episode 54, of course, with Katz and Aspasia.
Good morning, Bongo.
Oh, hello there. This is Bongo here. Yeah, I'm at the Happy Day Stay retreat. Miss Annie's woke me up and says that they're talking about what happened to me back in 78. That's why I'm here.
Where are you exactly?
Happy Day Stays retreat, like a sanitarium.
Okay.
I was bringing a new vehicle down, brand new vehicle down from Balladder, heading towards Narrabri in 1978. In September it was 78, and heading for Tamworth, and I missed the turn off out of Narrabri to go to Gunnedah, and I kept going. I didn't know where I was going, and I saw these old mileage pegs on the side of the road. They'd been like painted over in those days, and I thought the engraver in it was a G, like for Gunnedah, but in actual fact they were a C for, turned out to be Coonabarabran.
Right, okay.
And about halfway along the road sort of thing, I started to get a bit concerned. The fuel was running pretty low, and in the distance I saw what turned out to be in those days a telecom van heading my way. So I got out and I waved him down. It was pretty late in the afternoon, not just before dusk it was. Anyway, pulled up and he cracked the window down just a frightened little bit, and I said, "Look, I don't know where I am. Can you tell me where I am, mate?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "You're in the middle of the Pilliga. Do you know where that is?" I said, "No, never heard of it." He said, "What's your problem?" I said, "I'm nearly out of fuel. What? Can you tell me where I can get some fuel?" He said, "You're about the equal distance from here to Coonabarabran and Narrabri. It wouldn't matter." Anyway, I said, "I'm nearly out of fuel. I'd never get back." I asked him whether he was going to Narrabri, and asked him whether he could ring the NRMA or when he got there or something to bring me out some fuel, as I was a member.
Yep.
And he said, "Oh, you won't get anyone to come out here after dark." And anyway, he didn't explain why, but
right.
Anyway,
so you were stuck there.
I ended up staying in this big old 4-wheel drive all through the night, and about 3:30, 4:45, this thing just fair started a rocking, and all these funny weird lights and that were dancing around outside, and I looked out, and what looked through the window at me is why I'm in this state today. He pulled the door off its hinges, and this thing, like it defies explanation. What it looked like, it was horrific, and it took me through the bush a fair way.
So it grabbed hold of you,
and we ended up at this. I suppose you'd call it a humpy sort of a thing, and this thing had a real fetish, obviously, for real thin, bow-legged, knock-kneed, white, hairy legs. He had pairs of legs hanging up, and when he realised that I was no good to him, he took me back. He took me back to the edge of the road, whatever it was. I assume it was a he. If it was a she, there's something wrong in the world. But
Bongo.
I never ever saw him again. And a timber truck picked me up the next morning when it went through, and he took me to Coonabarabran, and it wasn't long after that they made me stay at Happy Days Day Retreat, and I've been here ever since.
Bongo, that is just an amazing story.
And Miss Annie tells me apparently that there's some idiot out there in the middle of it somewhere last week or something, attempting fate. There's got to be something wrong with the person.
Can you give us if I can't not pushing you too hard, what did it look like?
I can't explain it. It was horrible.
Pretty scary story there, Bongo, and thank you for that.
Oh.
And you look after yourself, okay? I'm going to pass your concerns on to Trev, who is our roving reporter, Trevor Chappell and Anna Mulder, who we've got out there in the Pilliga Scrub tonight. Bongo, thanks for your call, all right? You look after.
Oh.
There you go. They did have reporters.
I don't
they
think
had two
Bongo
reporters
can
out
look
there.
after himself, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether Bongo should have even gone on radio with that narrative, because he is truly suffering incredible amount of post-traumatic stress disorder.
Absolutely.
And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I can't say this absolutely, but it feels authentic to me.
Yeah,
it really does.
Look, you know, you can hear him. He starts off okay, and he's getting through it, and then as he's recanting the experience with the
as I said to you,
that thing. Yeah, I know. I can see it
we
now.
needed to put those covers in for the
Okay,
daylight.
we'll go to the next one.
All right, so excuse us pouring into our background here, but the sun is rising and we're doing this really early in the piece.
Yeah, wow.
Now, that is an incredible story.
It is.
And it's not dissimilar to some stories I've heard before. But the frightening thing there is that Yowie,
I've heard stories like
Bigfoot,
that on Sasquatch Chronicles,
actually start to turn into something similar to Ed Gein with
know.
a fetish for white gangly legs. Don't laugh, because you can imagine how horrific that is.
Oh, that'd be
and it's
frightening.
not to say that that's not real. Now, where we're going to archivally now in our Lost Media section is a news story that encapsulates everything. Missing 411. Don't go into areas that warn you about them. Very small population, I believe less than 1,000 people.
Yes.
In Lamington.
I think the last, when I looked up the population, it was 83.
Can you believe that?
Less than 100.
All right, let's have a look. Now, this is very poor quality, but the audio is still very clear. And we build up to the Yowie stories at the end, but we should take everything in.
Absolutely.
Let's go.
Hectares of mostly unexplored mountain country south of Brisbane. The Aborigines were so afraid of this place, they refused to walk into it. Right now, it's celebrating its 75th anniversary as a protected area. Anywhere else, there'd be an indifferent response. But this is not your average national park. This is about as close as you'll get to untouched rainforest. But it's a treacherous place. And in its 75-year history, it's claimed a long list of victims. Add to that the stories about giant ape men, Yowies, and you start to wonder whether this place should be called the Lamington Triangle.
Yeah.
Here we go. Some O'Reilly's Lamingtons, fresh baked.
Oh, Lamington's just my favourite.
This must be about the only place in the world you can have your Lamington and eat it too. And they were both named in honour of the same bloke, Lord Lamington, a former Queensland governor. Here at O'Reilly's guest house on the western fringe of the park is where the Lamington legend first began to take shape. And not far from here, the Triangle took its first victims. February 1937, and the entire nation was focused on the missing Stinson airliner, which had vanished between Brisbane and Sydney. While searchers were combing the coastline, a young bushman called Bernard O'Reilly was acting on a hunch. He set off into the national park and came back a hero. He had found the wreck and 2 survivors. The disaster had taken 11 lives. 40 years later, and just 1 week before he died, he talked about the moment he found the plane.
I was only 15 yards away when I saw them. Like gas in the trees. And the wind.
But while Bernard was gracing the front pages, this lady was out looking for adventure on the other side of the park. Marjorie Groom lives at Binnaburra, and at 78 she still likes to get out and explore. It's given her the chance to see some unusual and beautiful sights. But she's found this park has a dark side as well.
One man came up from Brisbane one Sunday afternoon and wanted to climb Ballandooey Falls, and it was light rain. And Arthur said, no, don't do it. But he, unfortunately, did. And of course he came to grief. He couldn't get very far up. And a policeman told my youngest son, years later, that he was clutching a clump of grass in his hand. He had tried to support himself by that only. And it was all this moisture around grass is not the best thing to hang on to.
There are some magnificent spots in this park, but so many people have paid the ultimate price in getting to see them. Others have simply disappeared. For every crag, cave and waterfall in Lamington, there's a story of violent death. Doing a spot of sightseeing in this place can take on a whole new meaning.
If you look, this is Moorings Creek down below us here, and just to the right-hand side of Moorings Falls is where the old, their first old O'Reilly hut was.
They reckon if you're ever lost in the Lamington, Peter O'Reilly will always find you. He's one of those rare breed of bushmen. Somehow he's on the same wavelength as the park, but he's also mindful of its dangers.
The rock you see there is generally basalt, which is pretty rotten stuff, so it's not good for climbing. And really, most of the crags around here have claimed a life or two over the years. You know, the Lost World, which is the big mountain over there, there'd be a couple of deaths there. It is a worrying sort of a thing.
Death in the Lamington is no recent phenomenon. During World War II, this place was used as a training ground for Australian and American soldiers, and not all of them came back.
After the war, there was a grazier in the valley here under Pat's Bluff who found a couple of bodies that had been there for quite a long while, and they think they were killed by a rolling rock, actually, that came down the mountain.
But long before the park was ever used for combat training, this bloke was wandering around the forest with a machete. Reg Cullen walked up to 30 kilometres a day through this jungle, building walking tracks. The work was wet and dirty.
It'd be impossible for people to live like it today, but we didn't know any difference. You know, you had to wear your clothes all the week, just and your blankets and everything. Blankets be all fly blown. Well, they could fly along and just lay live maggots. You know, you'd be eating your meal and blowfly would fly over and it'd be fly blown. You know, they were live, they just laid them live.
But Reg isn't the sort of bloke to complain about such things. Anyway, out here, maggots are the least of your worries.
You got all sorts of vines, ticks, leeches, fire vine, everything, and also yowies.
Yowies? You're pulling my leg, aren't you, Reg?
No.
Well, where are they?
Oh, they're round. They don't want you to see them.
I think we better keep going then, Reg, eh?
You reckon?
Yeah. Every forest has its creatures of the night, but very few play host to the Yowie. There's been stories about Yowies in this place for as long as anyone can remember. They make up the unknown element. According to the Aborigines, this was real Yowie country. Believe it or not, but in a century and a half of white settlement here, there's been over 200 reported sightings. But clearly not everyone's worried.
I haven't even heard one, but people talk about them, but I've only just laughed at it.
We'll probably never get to the bottom of the Lamington mystery. After all, it's been here for thousands of years. Its relatively short official history records a plethora of death and mystery. But it's also brought joy to so many people. The answer probably lies with the Yowies. They represent what we fear and what we don't know.
Tonight on
I love that little ending there. You know, the answer, I think, lies with Reg Aspasia. It's that tenacious, pragmatic Australian that lived off the land.
Absolutely.
Couldn't give a damn about a bit of a fly-blind maggot falling into his meal.
But
he's not going to tell you something that's not there.
Well,
People like that are 100% honest because they've actually been part of the land.
Yeah.
It's a shock for others that are not open to it. Tell us a little bit about
I don't know why it's called
Lamington.
Oh, well, Lord Lamington, but
Now, Lamington is a favourite sort of cake sweet in Australia, isn't it?
Yeah, so when people used to bake their cakes, you'd make just a plain white cake. And as it got towards the end of the week, if it wasn't eaten, it would start to get dry. So what we would do is cut them up into squares, dip them in a chocolate
like syrup,
all over, and then put them in coconut. And so it's a black and white sort of that's a Lamington. That's
so it's definitely distinctly a rural New South Wales.
It's
Lamington's in Queensland. Sorry.
Yeah, but
it's an Australian sweet.
It's called Lord Lamington was some governor. He was a governor, and it was named after him. I don't know what he did, but probably slaughtered a bunch of
let's not go there.
People, but
well, heavens, what made you say that?
Well, that's what lords did. That was what they were doing here. They were trying to clear the land, not just of forests, but
all right, no more. Okay, let's go to Glen Innes now for our last bit of archival footage regarding the Yowie.
Yes,
and tell us about where Glen Innes is. I think that again is in. It's past Coffs Harbour, isn't it?
It's just at it's right at the top there. It's sort of close to the border of Queensland.
All right, let's have a little peek at this piece of news.
An Innes man claims they are living here in the northwest.
This is meant to be the sound of a Yowie calling. It's a recording from America, but Paul Compton is using it to try to track down the elusive ape-like creatures in Australia.
This is sort of the main area that I've seen them here in around Glen Innes. Then you get an area called Torrington, which is north of Emmaville. That's a pretty good spot out there.
Mr. Compton says there's an area in the Blue Mountains where there have been 70 sightings in just 7 years. Confirmation in his mind the creatures really do exist. He's now collecting evidence to try to shatter the myth of the Yowie.
Where I found this was right in a creek bed.
He's made casts of footprints, collected one fecal sample, and even found what he calls Yowie beds.
I've collected hair out of those, which I've sent to America, and it's been analysed and documented as being higher primate.
Mr. Compton says he's even had personal run-ins with these higher primates. It's here, just 10 kilometres outside of Glen Innes. Mr. Compton says he had his first encounter with the Yowie. He says he'd stopped to check the trailer on his vehicle when something made him turn around, and just 20 metres away stood a large ape.
As I turned, he turned at the same time, and he was sort of looking directly in front of him, and as he's walking I could see his whole body.
He says the creature he saw stood 7 feet tall and must have weighed about 200 kilograms. It had long hair that was a reddy brown. Mr. Compton is hoping to find anyone else who has witnessed such sightings. He wants to put together a book on the topic and shatter the myth of the Australian Yowie by proving it true. In Glen Innes, Adam Harper, Prime News.
On you, Mr. Compton, wanting to shatter that myth. There are literally hundreds, possibly thousands
of people are trying to shatter that myth.
Trying to shatter that myth.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you someone who's doing a great job on it, and that is Doug Hychek and the Untold radio channel.
Absolutely.
And the way they're doing that, well,
Hangar
let's
One
have
Publishing.
a look at this.
Books that explore the unknown.
They're after my story.
Legends leap off the pages of our books.
You think you're the only one? They're under my tail too.
From UFOs to cryptids, Bigfoot and beyond.
Who's behind all this?
Hangar One Publishing, where every legend is revealed.
It's Hangar One Publishing. They're unraveling all of our mysteries.
Dive in. Real videos, sights and sounds with our immersive book technology.
I guess their secrets are out now. But in the best possible way.
From Bigfoot tracks to galactic trails, we cover it all.
We should get out of here before it's too late.
You're right, let's plan.
Escaping reality? Dive into ours. Hangar One Publishing, revealing the universe's best-kept secrets, one book at a time.
There is some astounding literature. Go and check out Hangar One, the publishing company attached to Untold Radio, Doug and Alex Hychek, and all the amazing people on there. The Bigfoot Influencers should be the first book that you buy, and then just go through the rest of it. Now, we're popping down to Peru
We are
because,
now.
as you're aware, since July, we have had a mangle
It's still
of
going,
stories
isn't it?
down there.
I thought it would have died down by now, but
It hasn't died down, and evidently more news is leaking out that this is not just secured to that remote village of San Antonio.
It's gone further afield.
It is all over. It's actually happening on a nightly basis. And we've spoken about this before when the government stepped in and supposedly debunked it as jetpacking, FLIR visual driven gold mining claim jumpers. And that's all gone out the frigging window, because how is that possible?
Well,
Completely not possible.
That's an even weirder story than if it was aliens, you know.
Well, I'll tell you where the next story has stepped in.
Where?
To debunk the fact that it could be anything anomalous.
Where?
They're now saying it is organ harvesters in that have access to extremely advanced technology. Now, with the tree canopy as thick and as out of control as it is down there, I don't care how advanced your technology is. I don't care how good your FLIR infrared is. You'd be down on the ground within 30 seconds trying to navigate that late at night.
Exactly.
So they can't really explain the tech capabilities of what's going on. These beings appear sometimes in silver suits. Some of them are translucently green. The amount of narratives is really conflicted and out of control, but there is hope. Indiana Jones is going down there.
Right,
Well, the real life Indiana Jones, and you and I are going to try and endeavor as hard as we can at some stage in the future to interview this gentleman.
Yes.
Timothy Alberino is an extraordinary adventurer.
Yep.
He has gone down there. I've seen photographs of him with the San Antonio community.
Yes.
He's taken them food. He's taken them tech. He's gone down with guards. And in the next few days, please put that name into your Google Drive.
And check out
He
what's
will
happening.
be releasing probably what will be the clearest assessment of the
Of what's
situation
going on down there.
that we know is occurring at this stage.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, let's have a look at what has been stated so far.
These people are being hunted. They've talked about the 15-year-old girl that was attacked, but not many blog sites have actually covered the fact that a man was killed. And they call them Los Percaras, which means face peelers. And this is a myth that's been handed down from generation to generation. And these things exist. They have footage of these things that were hunting them. They were shooting them with shotguns and they were getting up again. I mean, that's a scary situation if you can't shoot these things. The man that was found the next morning had his face removed. And they covered his body with banana leaves to keep the flies off him until the police turned up. And clearly his face had been removed. The skull was completely white. No eyes, ears, tongue. And this is why they call them face peelers. They were described as being 7 feet tall. They're a parasitic subterranean race. And they're here. And maybe this is what President Trump was trying to wipe out with the underground explosions, not earthquakes. Why our soldiers are being trained in subterranean warfare. Think about that.
I am thinking about it. What a wild ending that was,
just
but
out of
very
control.
interesting. Look, villages now have started to accuse tourists and people that are going there out of curiosity, the few that managed to get into that remote village, and they're accusing them of being the Pelicatus.
All right.
Because there is no explanation, and this is something that they're constantly dealing with. So let's hope that Timothy Alberino is the assistance that they have needed.
They need something.
Now, so much is going on in South America. I believe even the extraordinary, do we really know what they're doing? Space Force is down there at the moment.
Why are you Space Force down there?
Well, they're doing some tactical war operation down there, which the timing is very Casablanca-like.
Man.
But we're all aware, too, of the farce that turned into the UFO congressional hearings in Mexico and the beings that are sometimes highly suspect, and I wish he wasn't, Jaime
Well,
Maussan has brought to the public side.
Nope.
Let's have a look at this. But is he as suspect as we assume he is? And are these entities, these beings, able to be dismissed as easily as we thought they could be?
These mummies are biology book's worst enemy because every single one of them in this world would have to be rewritten. These mummies are not human, and apparently their ancestors came from a reptile species that evolved deep underground. At first, I thought this was all a hoax, but my stubbornness and gut took me deep into knowing more about who was physically involved and who else did DNA tests. And I come across Jose de Jesus Salce Benitez. He was invited to an interview called Paranormal Podcast. Jose has a specialty in forensic medicine and a master's degree in forensic medicine, and he confirms that this species is not fake, nor has been tampered with. The body showed no evidence of such procedures. Instead, it gave this man insomnia that very same night when he saw them.
So obviously we've got to look up the Paranormal Podcast and have a look for that forensic pathologist, because here is the contradiction. What looked like could be easily dismissed
Papier-mâché.
as very bad paper-mâché ETs, Spielberg ripoffs, now is beginning to look like, under the scanning process,
Wow.
that there could be some reality to these, that they're not just what they call in taxidermy. Is it a GIF? Where you actually grab bits and pieces
Gaff.
from
A
a
gaff,
gaff.
yeah.
Sorry, excuse me.
Mexican aliens. There's been a major development. Trace Gallagher, anchor of Fox News at Night, has the latest. Trace.
Jesse, these two mummified bodies are called Clara and Mauricio, and some Mexican doctors say all the evidence points to them being from a different world. The bodies were unearthed in Peru back in 2017 and have been studied by numerous doctors and UFO experts. But a Mexican doctor named Jose Zalce Benitez says, quoting here, "I can confirm that these bodies have no relation to human beings." Now, Dr. Benitez went on to say these bodies were not assembled or manipulated, and that one of the bodies was actually gestating, possibly even carrying eggs at the time of death. And he believes that.
Isn't that interesting? We're only going to go into a certain amount of that because
Okay.
we're dealing with that huge multi-billion-dollar provider there. But that states it all. There is complete contradiction. So we need some
Wow.
clarity on this.
So
And
the-
what could
the-
be seen as like an incredible hoax.
So the jury is
could-
still out on that
is
one.
still out completely.
Okay, we don't.
But
yeah.
what we're going to
All
do
right.
is going to go to the Black Vault Originals, and
Yeah.
thank you to John Greenwald Jr.,
Yep.
whose father was part of the space shuttle program, I found out
Mhm,
recently. He's
mhm.
passed away, so our heart steps out to that beautiful family. And through the incredible amount of 4-year research this man has done, Arrow, all
Yeah.
those task force have been telling us that there is a lot more detailed surveillance footage of anomalous objects they're releasing.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd keep this down in the heart of South America,
Mhm.
Peru, Brazil, where
Yep.
all that activity
Is
is.
happening.
And let's have a look now at Border Patrol Station
Right.
and an anomalous object. This is an incredible footage. And what we'll do is we'll put the sound up for us
Mhm.
so we can do this. Is the first time you've seen this.
Yes.
Please go to Black Vault Originals. There is so much other extraordinary footage that man has gained access to. Here is just one example.
He just doesn't stop, does he?
Never. Our mic's on now, I
Yeah.
can see.
Yeah.
That's good. So what you're watching is that ball Aspasia.
Oh, right.
See
Yeah.
that coming
Yeah.
through?
Yeah, I can see it. Oh, okay.
Now, this is incredible, this orb footage, because this is something that NASA have stated that they're ubiquitously documenting around the world. They have no understanding what it is.
What they are. Mhm.
You can tell that it's under intelligent control. You can also tell that the surveillance cameras
yes.
are under intelligent control. Someone is definitely
Well, somebody's watching it, that's for
distinctly
sure. They're
aware
following it.
that is there.
Yep.
And that is doing, remember we used to look at that footage decades ago, of the
Mhm.
first Concorde flights?
Yes,
It's
yes.
doing something very similar to that. There is no way,
Mm.
after watching this for a small amount of time, you wouldn't say that that object itself.
It's not small either.
No.
It's quite large. Where did it go?
It'll come back and
Oh,
they're
right. Has it
searching
gone
for it.
into
But
the-
there's no way you could say it's
Mm.
not under intelligent
No,
control.
it's
So-
definitely doing something.
And the reason why it's ended up here as part of the UAP task force, as
Mhm.
part of Arrow, is that they certainly believe it's not a drone. The first thing that my mind would go to is
Mhm.
that what we're looking at is a drone
Yeah.
here. Why is an enormous object
Oh, wow.
extremely curious about what you call as a border station, a
Mm.
truck checking station?
Yeah.
Why is that object that curious about all this? But look at the speed it varies.
Yeah, it does.
And look at it going around the canopy.
Yeah, well,
it's like
around
really
the truck, yeah,
observational,
checking it.
isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
But also wonder who's behind that surveillance camera and what's going on there. It seems like they're actually completely aware that these things turn up.
Well, someone's watching it because they were looking for it when it
I mean, watch,
disappeared.
yeah. I mean, now it's not going to jump up, but it will come back down.
I know.
Oh,
There-
yeah,
there's-
it
yeah, yeah,
does.
yeah.
So that
Yeah.
camera operator is more than aware
Oh,
of what's
he's
occurring.
following it, or she.
So
They're following it.
I tell you what, it is really fascinating, isn't it, when you think about it? And I think that's about the full length of that footage. But please, if you want a balanced account of this material,
Mhm.
you want a balanced account of what's happening in Congress, there is no one better than
No,
Black
that-
Vault
yeah,
Originals.
yeah.
He really has his feet on the ground, his head screwed
finger on the
his-
pulse too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
completely, and has had for numerous decades. Just go through his FOIA releases
Mhm.
and you'll see so much information that screams we are dealing with a massive cover-up. And, you know, it's all about classified, declassified.
Yeah.
Yeah. That camera operator has certainly lost that enormous object by this
That's right.
stage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fascinating, though.
It went
when you think
actually
about-
went the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's lost his path
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a little break and then we're going to swing into the whole situation to do with the UAP, to the Stars Academy,
yeah.
and where we're at now.
Hey, Untold Radio Network fans. Want exclusive perks and to support our channel? Introducing our YouTube membership program with 3 amazing levels. Get loyalty badges that level up to different cryptids the longer you're a supporter. How cool is that? You'll also get access to custom Bigfoot emojis and priority in chat. Upgrade to Backstage Pass for exclusive wallpapers, photos, status updates, discounted books, and merchandise. Go all in with the producer level for everything mentioned plus member shoutouts. Ready for an enhanced experience? Join now, pick your membership level, and let's make this journey even more exciting together.
The Department of Defense is taking another step toward making more information public when it comes to unidentified anomalous phenomenon, which is the new term for UFOs. The next phase of its transparency effort involves a new, secure way for government workers to share information related to UAPs. The Pentagon directly addressed News Nation's exclusive interview with UFO whistleblower David Grush, who says that there is a secret government program which has recovered alien spacecraft and aliens themselves. What are you learning about how they're going to release all this information? And is it meaningful, or is this basically, you know, the kind of stuff that most people guess is there anyway?
Well, we'll have to wait and see on that part, because they haven't released much of the information yet. But the briefing today, Elizabeth, was interesting. I mean, this doesn't happen very often. Arrow, which is the part of the Department of Defense mandated by Congress to look into UFOs, they had this briefing at the Pentagon. Reporters were there. We were able to listen in. We weren't allowed to record, but we could ask questions. And they revealed that they are now soliciting government workers and former government workers and contractors to actually come forward, come to their website where they've created a form online where they can actually go on and register themselves if they are aware of a secret U.S. government UFO program or crash retrieval program, which is really sort of extraordinary that they're taking this step.
Yeah.
Okay, so if they're aware of a secret, it's like, well, that's an oxymoron. If it's a secret, how would they be aware of it?
And that to me is incredibly suspect, because it's like you can report that anonymously and we'll have people around at your door within 24 hours to remove you. It reminds me a little bit of, Rush to Judgment and
Yeah.
Mark Lane,
Yeah.
who seemed like such an incredible patriot there,
Yeah.
and then turned out to be one of the major legal sources in Guyana for Jim Jones.
Yeah, well,
what
how
was
does that
going
work?
on
Yeah,
there?
how does that
So
work?
I'd exercise caution in reporting anything to the US government. That's just my opinion. And that's we're allegedly there. We're not making
But
any
it's like
profound
if
statements.
it's a secret UFO thing, it'd be a government sanctioned one, so the government would know about.
They just want to know where this crap's leaking from. They want your name, your number, and your personal address. All right, you're on
Yeah.
Down South Anomalies.
Yeah, you
We've
are.
now stepped into the world because we spent some time with the astounding Peter Levinder.
Oh, that was
And he is coming back to do a JFK program
Yeah.
on the
Soon
60th
enough.
anniversary in the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
We thought we'd take another look at Tom DeLong,
Yeah.
Blink 182's frontman, and the To the Stars Academy. And
See where they're at, 'cause
see what had happened to them, because they were set there
They-
to raise millions of dollars, and
Well,
they
not
didn't
just
go
that,
there.
not just
Didn't
that,
happen.
but it was like they were in the news there
Predominantly.
really predominantly in the UFO news, in the UAP news, and at the forefront of everything. And then all of a sudden, it all got shut down. Nothing was being reported on them in the mainstream media. You weren't hearing his name anymore. To the Stars Academy was just disappeared, and we didn't know what was going on. So yeah,
And
we
there are
thought, let's go and find out
associations-
where they've gone.
There
in
are
that time.
associations with huge names in the field, like
know.
Hal Puthoff and
Yeah.
Chris Mellon
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
Mellon family. Yeah. Anyway, let's have a look at what Tom said quite a few years ago that has actually come to fruition.
I mean, you're dealing with technologies that are so advanced. I think you'll start to hear the pressure building to have congressional hearings.
Oh,
on
I
this.
see. Okay.
And then once that happens, things get a little scary. In the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to start hearing rumblings of hearings.
That senators and representatives are taking this extremely seriously. Senator Gillibrand, Senator Marco Rubio, and also in the House, Congressman Burchett and Gallagher. The Congress has now got its teeth into this issue.
A 2019 radio interview with Tom DeLong has resurfaced, and it's strikingly relevant to today's developments regarding unidentified aerial phenomena. DeLong, a musician and UAP researcher, predicted that within 3 to 5 years, there would be a significant call to action in Congress concerning UAPs. As of 2023,
Okay.
So he got it right.
Yeah, he did.
He got it right big time, and that's what we've all seen.
Yeah.
Now, I've got a little interview here. I love this segment because this segment is matching the research we're doing behind the scenes with our Invisible College,
Mhm.
where we don't take a hypothesis, but we're looking at the fact that consciousness could be going back to people like Freud, the morphogenic resonance there,
The orgon.
Sheldrake, the orgon, the ether, that what you see is all you believe is possible. Now,
Mhm.
that's a line from Tom DeLong.
Yeah.
And therein lies the truth. Let's have a little listen to this about the way he is now perceiving the ufological conundrum.
What's interesting is on a quantum level, like everything in time is happening at the exact same moment, past, present, future. So what we see as physical reality, like look out your door and you see your street and the trees and other houses. But imagine if you kind of like just turn your head and it goes and you see that same location, but it's 1940. Turn it again and it's 1700. Turn it again, it's the year 3000. But it's the same place. And you can just kind of look through every timeline. That's all happening at the same moment. And what you end up actually seeing is all you believe is possible. That's not how it works. What they said is your brain is a transducer. So you're literally taking waves of potential, low frequencies, high frequencies, and you project them at the quantum level the instant that you look at something and think about it. And then it imprints it on a universal kind of hard drive that somebody else can now go to the location and see the same tree that you put there. So they're like, well, does a tree make a sound in the forest when it falls? No, it's not even there until a human is there to put it there. It's wild. So now they're going, oh my God. So if consciousness is literally the energy that is everywhere, that's omnipotent, the way we say God is, omnipotent, the way we say God is. It's what powers the atom. It's a sea of energy that powers the individual atom. that you're telling me that we can tap into that sea and our brain just pulls that fuel and we can project like war, a dictator, an abuser, love, happiness, a child, a tree. And so then they did all these experiments called the double slit experiment, where they're shooting photons through one of two slits, like on a plate. Just one individual photon. They were like, it's only going through the slit that we observe. Like the scientists, they were looking at the left slit, the photon goes to that one or the right one, but it was literally only to do with their mind. And on the plate that it would get collected on, it was dotting the plate, each one dot, dot, dot. It was a wave, waves of probability. It's all these crazy energy waves that only your brain can tune into. So when you tune into like you know, a burrito, it's it's you're literally thinking and tuning into and getting rid of all the other staticky waves around it and getting a hi-fi signal to something you're imagining from the past or whatever you think. You're just imagining it, and then if you knew, you could actually materialize the burrito in your hand. But we don't know how to do that. But then a kid does it. Like kids like Edgar Allan Mitchell, I think I told you this a long time ago, when he went to the moon, he came back and he was just like, something about consciousness is a big deal. And he had this epiphany. So he started this this institute called the Institute of Noetic Sciences or something. It's all about consciousness. So Edgar Allan Mitchell, a PhD, Apollo astronaut, gets all these other PhDs. And one of the first things they studied was Uri Geller, was around TV, the psychic bending spoons in his fingers, melting spoons. They're going around, they kind of find out, is he lying, is he not? We can't actually tell because we know he's lying here. Looks like he's really doing it here. So we don't really fucking know. But what we do know is when we go around all the houses of kids watching this dude on Johnny Carson, they don't know he's lying. So the kids are really doing it. So I don't know, look, he can do it, I can do it. Because no one told the kids it's not possible. That has to do with faith and belief and manifestation. Well, everyone knows, how do you manifest a good life? That sounds weird. It's new agey. No, it's actually physics. It's literally actually physics that on the very fundamental basic quantum level, the only way for a physical matter to exist is for a human to transduce the waves into physical matter. And if you don't, someone else will do it for you, and then you're kind of fucked, you know, and then you live in a world that you can't mesh with, you know? So we are literally creating reality. And everything is happening everywhere, all at once. So if you think of your brain as this little antenna, you can literally tune into your own life experience. But there's cause and effect and all these different natural forces. So if you want to be a rock star and that's all you tune in, maybe you'll get there overnight, but you'll be on drugs and you'll hurt people and you'll have a crash. Because at the end of the day, it's about your soul learning lessons and getting better and consciousness expanding, because all of us are having lessons. But it's just a really fascinating way to think about life. And this is like the latest stuff with neuroscience and physics and quantum physics, and UFOs kind of sit at the nexus of all of that. That's how I got into this stuff, because I was like, I want to know about the machines and who are the pilots. But really what you learn is these machines aren't coming from other planets, they're coming from time, you know. And then you go, why? Well, maybe we have a consciousness they don't have, so they can't like meditate and kind of cruise through all things at once. They have to use a machine to do it, you know. So it gets really crazy quick, but I find that fascinating.
It is fascinating.
Did I tell you? I told you last week, I'm ascending. This is the last go around for me. I'm done.
You know
I've learned
what?
my lessons.
The rhetoric there we're hearing was actually articulated by, you know, highly suspect at times, Bob Lazar, over 3 decades ago, when he said that the human beings were containers.
Yes.
And there was a search there from this anomalous
The soul, the consciousness,
for the emotionality of humanity. Who knows? Look, as far as I'm concerned, some of the words in there, let me finish. Excuse me. Some of the words in there, I don't think it's a question of belief, manifestation, and faith.
I know it.
They're a good way to live.
Yeah, sure.
They really are. That notion of positive affirmation. But go on. Sorry,
I was just going to say that whole. I heard that. Yeah, that's what you say when you interrupt me.
Go on.
I was just going to say that when Ross Coulthard was talking about that.
Ross was with us. We had lunch.
Yeah,
with
we
Ross.
had lunch with him 3 weeks ago. And he recanted that story, that whole thing about the photon through the slit and stuff. So it's like, you know, everybody's onto this now. And, it's almost like we're
Isn't
coming
that-
to this nexus.
Well, it
of-
was so weird to hear Tom DeLong actually recant virtually the same statement
Yeah, I
we
know.
heard at lunch with Ross Coldhart.
Yeah, I know.
Our man that brought David Grush to the public's
Attention.
there through
Well,
the fantastic work of Leslie Keenan
Of
and
course.
Tom DeLong and everyone behind the scenes. What you're seeing is all you believe is possible.
Yeah.
And therein lies the problem.
Mm.
You need to manifest humanity, no matter how difficult things are. You mean to manifest and put into place a positive reality around you. Of course, it's horrific what is happening in the world out there, but we need to not let that defeat us. And we need to create the most positive space for the people in our lives, and the people we love around us.
For sure.
Now, people have
and
thrown.
I think the thing is too, it's with the children. That's the only way we're going to be able to,
Yeah.
because we're all cooked. You know,
yeah, we are so
we're
cooked, it's
all
ridiculous.
so set in our
My
ways.
glial
and
cells are
we
decaying
have
right
been,
now.
We have been programmed, and it's
Corrupted.
really hard to deprogram ourselves.
The medium is
Yet-
the message.
That's right. It's the children and that's why being allowing children to be, use their imagination. But see, now with the computers and everything, it's taking kids' imagination and it's corrupting it and ruining it. And instead of letting kids be free and
I'm
let
asking
them
you to come up with something positive at the end of this episode.
well, I am, but that's what I'm saying is you got to get the kids and get them young and train them, sort of thing. Well, that's what they've been doing, but we've got to train them to let their imagination soar and allow them to be happy and to be kids and to do and believe in whatever they
Be
believe.
their authentic self.
Well, yeah, and not even be the authentic, but don't say to them no. Don't say no. That's not right. No,
Unless they're picking
that's-
up a handgun that's loaded.
Yeah, well, you keep handguns away from kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that I'm saying is just let kids use their imagination
And
be
don't
free.
fill them with your fear and your corruption and your
Well, yeah,
caustic
that's what
nature.
we do, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the problem. Anyway,
Listen, a lot of shade has been thrown on Tom DeLong and the scars. I mean, it was incredibly there was an incredibly abundant start that they impressed on the world that they were going to do actual extreme amounts of
Well,
documentation.
that
They've
was-
done great work with Lavinda. I mean, that
Yeah.
trilogy of books
Yeah.
is really important.
machines and
War and God.
Yeah,
But, I think that we need to step back from throwing shade. Stop going to the negative and trying to flush your own insecure ego out and just
I just-
accept the positive things that are coming out.
for sure. But when he came out and he was mixing with those those melon people and all those and I'm thinking, what?
intelligence.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, you can really feel like there's a patsy
there's-
being set
yeah,
up
that
in your
there is
midst.
being, and why he would have gone to those people.
But I think
too
he's
is like,
incredibly
I don't know.
sincere, and I'm
Well-
sure that system can manipulate you.
Of course they can.
And there's certainly
That's what they do.
We can see underneath that surface that they're trying to repackage this as a very sinister threat.
Yeah.
They're trying to rebrand it, to refresh it,
Yeah.
to step back from all the liability, the degradation, of
past
indiscretions and lying when it comes
Yeah,
to that stuff.
yeah.
But look, Tom has been working on a very important project. It's his directorial debut,
Mhm.
director and writer of a new feature film. And I think we'll end tonight's program with the trailer for that
Yeah.
feature.
It looks right up my alley.
It is up your alley. And you've got a great youthful mind. You love those
stuff like I
teenage
love
films
that, yeah.
when they go crazy.
I have a really strong 15-year-old adolescent boy in me,
Yeah.
film wise.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just love
All right,
stuff
so
like this.
but he is getting a lot of shade. It's not getting great critical
Yeah,
reviews.
well, who
Give him a
cares?
break. It's his first film. It's not a huge budget, and it looks like it's a lot of fun.
Yep.
The whole idea, like his work with Lavinda,
Mm,
which is fictional, is to actually create something fictional that's bleeding through information in the
Fiction- but
non-fictional
at
world.
the core of this, you can see is that he's saying that all of these phenomena
Are linked.
that are so beyond linked that it's the same thing. You know what I mean?
Well, who knows?
Well, you know it. You know it.
All right.
I know it.
All right.
Maybe everybody
You're
else
on
will get on
South
board.
Anomalies. This is episode 54 with
This
Jay
is it.
Katz and
So we'll
Aspas.
watch the trailer.
No, we'll come back
We
to
will
say
come back.
good evening to everyone.
All right,
But
no problem.
let's have a look at what is. It could be released right now or on the eve of its release. And it's the culmination of many years' work. And it's To the Stars Academy, bleeding into the pop cultural world. We always said the truth lies
in pop culture.
The elements in pop culture. Let's have a look at Monsters.
Inhale for 3 seconds. Exhale, sigh it out.
Come on, guys. Dad, if you're here, let me know.
Whoa.
Classified UFO research program. These are coordinates.
What exactly did your dad tell you he did?
He said he couldn't tell me.
Were you serious about people disappearing and all that?
Most of the paranormal locations in my dad's notebook are scattered all over the world.
Maybe it's all connected. UFOs aren't what we think they are.
What are you guys looking at? Dude, why in the hell would I let you creep on my sister?
Because best friends make sacrifices for each other?
Fascist.
I need the full story, the real story.
They don't want you to know anything. This is going to shatter any idea you have about reality.
Drive.
Ready?
Hey, Mom, there's something in the background.
Oh, God! Why ghosts? Oh, I hate you guys. Let's get serious.
Hope it's not the creatures from above.
What happened the night my dad disappeared?
We all know conspiracies are dumb.
We have a situation.
What if people knew that these were real?
There's no way people can actually handle this.
All night long, and they're
Climb in! Can I show you something that will absolutely change your world?
I'm literally about to find out what happened to Dad after all these years. I'm this close.
Let it go, Dallas.
This might be the most important night of our lives. Go! Let's go! I'm just realizing that guy's insane.
This thing is bigger than all of us.
Go, 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 go!
Wow, he's hurt!
Whatever this turns out to be, it's how the universe is. You can't hide reality, man.
I'm not gonna let you do this.
Do I have your attention now?
My advice, go back to your sleepaway camp.
Freaking love sleepaway camp.
I freaking love Sleepaway Camp, and no matter what this turns out to be, it's reality, folks, and it's a very, malleable reality we're living in. It's not as
Clearly it is.
as three-dimensional hard as we've all imagined it to be. I think that looks like it could be a lot of fun.
I can't wait for it, actually.
And
That
you can really
kind of
hear
film's right up my alley.
He's stepped right back into the Blink-182 shoes and that soundtrack in many ways, which he has written for the film. Well, that sounds sort of a lot of fun as well.
I watched a UFO, an alien film a couple of weeks ago that was quite amazing. I've forgotten the title
Now,
now.
Spielberg's come out with a 6-part series on Netflix, hasn't he?
Yes, he has.
What's
He
the
has.
name of that show? Do you remember that? Because you started watching that.
Yes, I did. I watched the
Probably.
first episode and it was really, really good. It was quite amazing.
So is it
actually.
fictional or is it documentary?
No, it's a documentary
Wow.
series. Yeah, it's really good. We have
His
to watch it.
sister, who turned out to be the diametrically opposed director to him, absolutely atrocious, but her science fiction films are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
She has come up with something similar to abduction narratives. Am I wrong in that regard? Has she had some ufological
Apparently,
experience?
she had some stuff happen to her, and that's why I think that's what put him on that path.
That quest.
Anyway, I'll try and remember that UFO film that I watched a couple of weeks ago, an alien film actually. Aliens came down and No One's Going to Save You. I
Is
think
that
it was
the
called.
name of it? Yeah.
It was quite
How
amazing.
old is it?
It's only new. It's only
right.
recent, and it was actually quite amazing. But it was really weird because at first it was it was like a really sinister, and the aliens were awful, and they were malignant, and they wanted to cause harm, but it turned out to be our
Malignant
protection.
or malevolent?
Malevolent.
Oh, whatever.
Malevolent. Anyway,
Doesn't matter. What's
yeah,
in
they
a
were
word?
bad. They were supposed to be evil. They were trying to, it looked like they were trying to kill,
Keep
but
disappearing.
do I?
Yeah.
Anyway, it turned out to be other of course, and it was quite interesting. So yeah, no one's going to save you. I really highly recommend. I'm just
Crazy little film review at the end there.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway,
look, you know, we are building up to some astounding interviews. We want to make
saying
sure
that all the time. Oh, but we
listen
did
to
have
me.
one. We had
Yeah,
one last week.
give
It
me
was
a break
amazing.
there.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Give
I'm
me a
kidding.
break there.
Yeah.
We have worked hard to make sure that the people we interview are people that will be worthwhile to keep going back to in the future. Not just airy-fairy. I'm not saying that there are
a lot of the stuff
plethora
used to be
airy-fairy researchers out there, but we want to make sure they're either predominantly around this nation of the hemisphere or they're fascinating characters on the world stage.
Absolutely.
And, you know, Peter Levindra is certainly one of those.
He certainly is.
Hopefully, next week's episode, we will have the extraordinary, the most qualified person in the world after the death of Stanton Freeman, Don Schmidt.
Yes.
Up live with us. And Don's working behind the scenes to get us an interview with the late actor of The Invaders.
He's not late.
To the Far.
He's still there.
Oh, no. Sorry, my excuse. Let's hope I haven't cursed that man. Roy Thinnis
of The Invaders.
Yeah, The Invaders.
Yeah,
who became a UFO researcher after that and had an amazing experience.
Yeah, there's a story there that is very UFO.
Fingers crossed on that one.
Yeah. Anyway.
We want to thank all our supporters, people that get up and are there with us every week. We'll be in the chat room very soon, actually.
Yeah.
We're always in the chat, but we pre-record our stuff because of where we are on the timeline. You have been on Down South Anomalies.
You have.
My wife's name is Aspasia.
Yours is J. Katz. Sometimes. Anyway.
Yeah.
We will be back next week with another show.
Yeah.
All right.
I tell you what, check out all those other podcasts. They're fascinating. And take good care and be safe. And thank you for your time today. We truly appreciate your support. You've been on the Untold Radio Network.